Have you perhaps asked yourself this question to know why African leaders decided to expose the West with their mafias at the UN General Assembly, which just took place recently? The president of Ghana called the UN the most unfair organizations that the world never had, while the president of DRC, Republic Democratic of Congo, called for the UN troops to leave his countries. The transit president of Guinea called for the West and the UN to leave Africa alone with its minerals. What about the president of Kenya, President Ruto, who had asked the West and the UN to give Africans the same treatment that they've been giving to Ukraine? Should I continue on, because the list seemed to be very long of African leaders who had crushed the world? But in this video, I want us to focus on what the representative of Burkina Faso government had said in this general government in behalf of the transit president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Thanks to this speech, the world was told about what the West they've been doing in Africa for centuries. Burkina Faso said after centuries of colonies in Africa, the West pretend to leave Africa continent, but yet they are now sending their troops in Africa through different organizations to continue looting the African minerals. And this word was said in a very loud way that the world should not be full of what the West are pretending to say, that they are there to bring peace in Africa. Instead, they are in Africa for only one mission, which is looting Africa continent. Yep, they've been in Africa to continue stealing Africa mineral resource. Thanks to this same speech, everything that the West they've been hiding to the world, it was all said out in the UN General Assembly in front of everyone. What more was said that really exposed the West? Well, let us find out and know the whole story. Look here. This is Ibrahim Traoré, the transit president of Burkina Faso. He's been in power since 2022 after he had this military coup. This man, he knew if he could go to the UN General Assembly, he was gonna make a lot of presidents jealous, especially the West, who don't want to hear anything coming from his mouth. In the eyes of the West and the open eye masters, this man has been placed in the same categories as the one of Julius Malema from South Africa and Professor Lumumba, people who have been defending Africa with its minerals. But why do they do so? Why do they have to hate him this much? It is for the obvious reasons, because this man, each and every speech that he gave, it is the kind of the speech that make the West shake in their seats. So since he could not go to the UN General Assembly in his military uniform, he decided then to send his representative to go to this UN Assembly and deliver this powerful speech that Africans they've been waiting to hear from. What is interesting about all this is for the fact that even though he could not make it to this UN General Assembly, each and every word that was being said by his representative, it was all written by himself, and that is what made the Western leader sweat in their seats. The Minister of State of Burkina Faso started this speech by reminding the UN of such leader as Patrice Emery Lumumba, Martin Luther King of the USA, Nelson Mandela of South Africa, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Hamilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau, Mohamed Kouroum of Ghana, and Captain Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. He said that all these African great leaders, they were all assassinated because they stand against the oppressor of their people. They were either imprisoned, executed, assassinated, or poisoned. And the only crime they had committed was to stand for their people, to defend them against rapists, slavery, and looting against the West power. He said that he's not going to use any fancy words, but straight word to tell the truth that the world deserves to know about what has been going on in Africa. He says that the world today is being fooled by hypocrisy of the West, who get to impose their leadership in Africa and pretending to say that they are in Africa for peacekeeping, yet they are the one who are committing serious crime in Africa continent. Everyone knew exactly who he was referring to. When the UN and the world leaders were expecting for him to talk perhaps about what is happening with the crime, better world, as they are pretending to make it look like these men have to come and tell them the true reality of what's been happening in the world, especially in Africa continent. These men remind the UN, saying that each and every year when this assembly is seated, there is a lot of promise but with no actions. In other words, a lot of promises without actions. Instead, what the world get to experience, especially people of Africa, it is all about dictatorship, looting of African minerals, killing of Africans without no reasons, imposing of the West leadership in Africa continent. He said that this have become a serious business for the West in order for them to continue looting Africa as they pleases, because each and every time they have to come up with something that they'll have to find as a reasons in order for them to enter in Africa continent. He said that shame on the West leaders for sending their condolences on what happened in Libya because of the flood that had killed many people recently. But that is not what Libyan people deserve. What people of Libya deserve is an apology. An apology because of what they have come to do in Libya, to destroy Libya and bring this instability in Libya. That is what had caused what Libya they are going through today. He said that the West should go and apologize to the Libyans for killing their colonel Muammar Gaddafi. In other words, according to him, if Muammar Gaddafi was still alive, perhaps this kind of disasters was not going to take place in Libya. He said that if the US did not invade Libya, perhaps the story would have been different today. Oh, that was not all. The men said that what is happening today in Niger is not what's supposed to be happening, because all we are seeing, it is the influence of the West and the world organizations getting to interfere in the affairs that concerns only the people of Niger. He says that the government which is leading Niger today, it is the government of people, because these militaries, they might be soldiers, but they are people who are there to save their people. So how do this West find it so hard in order for them to accept this government? Instead, what they do, it is all about influencing the African Union and this Western organization called ACOA to come and interfere in the affairs that concern Niger people. He also said, how possible is it that one another government, such as the Republic of France, they had the courage to threaten a legit government in a sovereign country, saying that they are going to invade the Niger if they don't release the so-called elected president. He explained the reason why Burkina Faso and Mali, they were so determined to make sure that if France ever tried to invade Niger, they were gonna also go in and try to protect people of Niger. He continued to say that the United Nations, it had to remain a private property that belongs to the West, where they get to conduct it and tell it what exactly needs to be done. The UN that's supposed to be in the middle of the village, the UN that's supposed to be a good place for every country, for everyone around the world, it is now in the hands of the West, because they are no longer respecting the United Nations Charter that they had signed for. He said that the UN has been used as a powerful instrument by the US in order for them to destroy the world peace. He called for African leaders to be united and put their power together in order for them to fight the system of the open eye mask, which has been destroying the African continent for so many years ago. He asked African leaders to not let their hands off, because if they do, the West will continue destroying Africa, eliminating all the leaders in Africa, such as Muammar Gaddafi and many more leaders that they have assassinated before. Therefore, he asked for African Union and ACOA to at least try to do what is good for Africans and not be at the service of the West, especially the one of France and the US. Come to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Burkina Faso Minister of State, in behalf of Ibrahim Traoré, says that this war continue because the multinations, they are busy protecting their own interest, and they are using Ukraine as a battlefield in order for them to continue dominating the world. He said, how come the UN is there watching several nations around the world, providing their troops and gun machines to go and fight in Ukraine, instead of them going there to bring a true negotiation that can lead to peace? According to him, he said that War in Ukraine will never gonna bring peace at all. Instead, a lot of things will keep on damaging and people keep on dying, all because the West don't want to be defeated by Russia, and Russia don't want to be defeated by the West. Now, who's paying the price? People of Ukraine, of course. So, instead of the UN keep on hiding a lot of fuel to this fire, they can come in as the middle negotiator to bring peace between these two countries. Unfortunately, that's not the case, isn't it? He continued exposing the West by explaining what has been happening in these countries, Mali, Chad, Niger, and Burkina Faso. These countries have been having problems of terrors. Another good example, Nigeria. These countries, they've been having problems of terrors, rebellions, who've been in these countries fighting the government in order for them to go and take some part of their countries and take the petrol and different minerals to go and sell it to the West. Burkina Faso, they have decided to take their problems into their own hands. What about you? What are you still waiting for? You as an African. Burkina Faso, they are doing their part. DRC, they did their part by calling the UN troops to withdraw from their countries. What are you still waiting for? This is about time for Africa, with Africans, to be united and to stand against any Western power countries that will try to bring the instability in Africa continent. We really do appreciate your time that you take to watch this video up to now. But do us a favor before you leave. It is very important you give us your thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. Also encourage us so that we can come back with more videos. But just in case if you want to catch up our next videos, well, it is very simple. Hit that subscribe button so that whenever we upload a video, whenever we are live, you don't get to miss any of our videos. We really do appreciate that if you do what we are asking of you. For now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon. Ciao, ciao.